Habitat in the northern lakes of Wisconsin is always a good topic for discussion. And the dilemma is every lake has its own unique habitat. Some lakes in northern Wisconsin are natural lakes, some are seepage lakes, some are flow-through lakes, they have streams running into them, and some are reservoirs. Many of them are reservoirs. And the dilemma that the reservoirs have is that when we, humans, placed a dam to create this lake, bigger than it had been originally, if it was a small lake there, or if we dammed up a river or a creek to create a reservoir, we never took into consideration what walleyes actually need to spawn on. We know walleyes prefer gravel bottom, gravel meaning pea-sized gravel to what's called small rubble, about the size of your fist or a potato. And they like it to be clean, that is free of debris or free of algae, so that when they deposit their eggs, the eggs, as soon as the sperm enters the egg, the outer membrane of a walleye egg becomes adhesive. So it falls down and they collect on these clean rocks where they are well oxygenated and the sun warms them by virtue of the sun shining through the water. The water, typically walleyes spawn in less than 3 feet of water, so sunlight reaches the bottom very well. So when you start talking habitat in any given lake, a lot of lakes don't have appropriate walleye spawning habitat because we put the walleyes there. They may or may not have been native to those lakes, and then they do the best they can. They find what they assume is suitable spawning habitat, and I've seen walleye spawning on muck and mud on an inlet stream. The reason they're there is because of water temperature. The water is warmer where the stream is coming into the water, but the creek bottom was really scuzzy mud, and quite frankly, none of those eggs will survive. They get covered up by silt due to all kinds of disturbances, and when they get covered up by silt, they suffocate. So we can talk many times about what it takes on a given lake in northern Wisconsin to produce a good spawn. The other thing is water. You have to have a good zooplankton population. Once these little fish hatch out of the egg, they almost immediately need something to eat. Their yolk sac lasts for 2 to 3 days, depending upon water temperature. Water temperature affects their rate of metabolism, so that's not a definite number. But once their yolk sac is gone, they have to have something to eat right now. And if the lake doesn't have a sufficient amount of zooplankton based upon the habitat of the water for them to survive, you probably won't have a very good walleye reproduction there either. So there's lots of factors. Little walleyes, typically when they're spawned on the shoreline, they swim out into the middle of the lake, and they live out in the deep portions of the lake in about the top 16 to 18 inches of water. That's the warmest water in the lake, and that's where the phytoplankton and the zooplankton proliferate. So that's where they live for about 40 days. And in about 40 days, under optimum conditions, they'll be 1.5 to 2 inches long. They're called planktivorous at that time because they're eating plankton. And about that time, they want to flip over and become piscivorous, which is feeding on fish, other fish species, small larvae from other fish. And they'll be piscivorous for pretty much the rest of their life. So there's so many tentacles involved with what is good habitat in the lake that really you have to do the research on any given lake to determine what the factors are that are affecting the fish in a beneficial or a negative way. And quite frankly, we don't have enough staff in DNR in Wisconsin to do that. So we can attempt to do it ourselves, but that's quite frankly not a very productive way of doing things.